Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy Adventure. In the last part we got here to the Medusa Cave and now we're going to continue on. And I also did my level grinding off screen as usual. Level 35, that's what my stats are looking like now. And as I mentioned before, I believe, if you want to go for more even stats, just to alternate, I think it's power and wisdom. That generally should be good enough. Also, these shadow guys here suck. You see, most of the enemies in this area are very vulnerable to the Silver Sword. However, for some reason, these guys like to go down in more shots of the Wind Spear, which does make sense, yes, because, well, it's more powerful. But all the enemies in here are generally undead or just very vulnerable to Holy Elemental like supposedly the Silver Sword or Mithril Sword is. So that's kind of weird, especially considering they're called shadows. Also, fun fact, in the Japanese version, we're not looking for Medusa's tears in the Japanese version, we're looking for Medusa's blood, which will make a certain scene coming up a bit more dramatic. Also, that room with the twin gargoyle statues, keep that in mind for later, I will be cutting back there. I do have to wonder why they edited out a lot of the really cool stuff. I mean, some of the stuff makes sense for censorship stuff, but it's kind of interesting to look at that. Also, I completely forgot to mention, like, 1 or 2 parts ago, I think it was 2 by now, actually, Watts, the dwarf who joined our party. He's actually the first dwarf to join your party in anything Final Fantasy related. And I actually, now that I think about it, I think this was actually the first American released quote-unquote Final Fantasy game to have Moogles in it. Because they weren't in Final Fantasy 1, they weren't in 4. They were in 6, but 6 didn't come out until, what was it, 95? So, yeah, I think this actually was the first game to feature Moogles in it in America. That's pretty cool. Really, though, a lot of the enemies here don't really have anything going for them. I think the mummies can stone you, but that's not much of a problem in this area, because first off, all status ailments in this game are temporary. Even stoning, which doesn't actually stone you, it just paralyzes you in the position you're in for a couple of seconds, really. Isn't that bad. But if you ever do get stoned in here, Amanda's Ask ability is that she will free you from stoning. Yeah. You know, I'm at least glad that this game does technically have 2 dungeon themes. I think I mentioned this earlier, but or I may have just been thinking that in my head during a recording session. But a lot of the music in this game is pretty repetitive because, you know, Game Boy game and all. By the way, step on this switch, then whip over to the post with the chain whip to get past you. If you move up, you'll end up on the other switch, which closes the door. But technically speaking, this game does have 2 main dungeon themes. Cave dungeons and non-cave dungeons. I do wish there was more variation, which is a complaint I even had in Final Fantasy IV, but oh well. Anyway, we got the ice spell there, which we're going to be using coming up here. First off, they're introducing us to the puzzle here. You have to put a snowman onto the switch. And here's how ice works. You press the button, then your partner screws you over, so you have to save and reset. You press the B button, and you create an icicle that flies towards your opponents. Sort of. You actually control where the icicle goes, and upon touching them, they become a snowman, which is the snowman I just pushed onto the second switch there. I actually completely forgot to edit in the spell. Well, that was stupid of me. Oh well. And here's what stone does. I can't move at all. Thankfully, Amanda's here. I think Amanda had an entirely different name in the Japanese version, but I can't confirm that for a fact. I know 2 characters later on in the game have names that are slightly different in Japan. Well, they're kind of different. It's more like they kind of Americanize them in a weird way. Also, I just realized I have like 2/3 of the maximum amount of gold you can have. Huh. Anyway, get the Wind Lance out because it's time for the boss fight. You don't really need any magic spells aside from Cure, maybe.
This will be your place to rest forever.
Well, Medusa was certainly easy to find. Medusa's a very easy boss. She moves around the field shooting the snakes of her hair at you. You're supposed to hit her in the head, but I think her hitbox is technically active slightly below it. She can stone you, but thankfully Amanda is here to help us out with that. I won't even recommend using your charge-up attack. Just stab her in the face enough and she'll go down pretty simply. It's one of the bad parts about having an action RPG like this. The boss fights are pretty simple. Mind you, that's mostly because of the Game Boy's programming limitations and such. While it was more powerful than the NES, it didn't have the variability that you could have in a Super Nintendo game, or the buttons to make up for that. Oh well. Good games still happen. And she still somehow explodes. Really high blood pressure, I guess. And we're fading the black for some reason.
Came here to get my tears? Ha! What a joke!
Alrighty then.
Can't find a drop of tear.
Let's go back to Jad first.
Ouch!
Are you okay?
I guess Medusa bit me while fighting. One who is bitten by Medusa turns to Medusa. I think you mean into Medusa.
Stupid character limits!
I'm gonna turn into a Medusa in a short while. Please do away with me and take my tears, Alan.
No, I can't!
I'm gonna be a monster. I might lose my mind and hurt people. Please, Alan, before I lose my feelings. Please, take my tears to Lester. Tell him that I loved him. Please. Alan, please.
Fine. That's kind of abrupt and funny, honestly. I'm sorry, Amanda, but I had to. And as I mentioned before, that is technically her bloodied up sprite, because that's what we're here for. And we took a drop of tear from Amanda's face, which is supposed to be blood from her body, of course. Anyway, now I'm going to head back to Jad and do stuff. I grind 2 levels, do some stuff there. And now we're back in Davias' palace. Mansion thing. I also bought some new keys and mattocks. And yeah, for some reason it's an Amanda potion. Anyway, let's cure Lester. And we used Amanda, the tears of Amanda. Lester was released from Davias' curse.
Thank you. I'm sorry to tell you, but Amanda sacrificed her life to save you and all. To save me? Oh, Amanda. Will you please help me to avenge my sister?
Yes, Lester.
Thanks. Let's go, Alan.
When did I tell you my name?
Mystic Tune?
Yeah. That's very badly translated. Also, I forgot to mention, Amanda throws daggers as her attack. As Lester is a bard. His attack is to shoot a bow and arrow, actually. But his ask command is actually to change the music. It can become a lot of different tracks. I think it can even become the final dungeon theme, but I'm not sure on that. I know it can become the overworld theme, which at this point I honestly would prefer over this foreboding dungeon music, but oh well. Now, I don't recommend the Wind Spear for this place. Like the last area, a lot of enemies are susceptible more to the Silver Sword. Now, in the Japanese version, there's actually a translation... well, there's a translation difference everywhere in the game, really. But there's actually a dialogue change from when Alan was telling Lester about Amanda. He actually admits to Lester that he killed Amanda, rather, but more that she fell into Davies' trap, but she died by my hand, I think is the almost direct wording, honestly. So that's a bit of a curious thing. There's actually not that many differences left in translation, because for the most part, the story is relatively the same. Slightly kiddified, yes, but not too bad. Anyway, I'm not sure what to call those things, but I've always just called them warp tiles. They kind of push you in one general direction, very similar to ice tiles. Also, if you ever see me just momentarily pausing in the middle of my striding walk, that's because I'm checking my notes. When I get a second computer, this will change, but the way I do notes for the most part when it comes to LPs is that I have a notepad that's about 7 inches by 9 inches, and I do an episode's worth of notes per page. And it's kind of inconvenient to look down like that every now and then. That's why I can't wait to get a second computer, because then I can actually make, like, Word documents of notes and then just look slightly to the right of the screen. Anyway, these switches here to go on to in a counterclockwise fashion, so just do that and you should be good. You know what's kind of weird? Lester's sprite design reminds me less of a bard, unless viewed from the front, and more of Conan the Barbarian for some reason. I think it's the hair. Some of the enemies in here can inflict you with status ailments, like the werewolves are back here again. They can inflict dark. The eyeballs we saw earlier, who we've seen in a couple dungeons before this, I believe, can inflict Moogle on you, so watch out for that, but honestly, nothing too bad. Actually, weren't Moogles confirmed to be like a cross between something else and a beaver? I know that their origins was as beavers in Final Fantasy II, I think it was. Anyway, there's a breakable wall there, but that's the way towards the exits, so we're not going to go there yet. Also, I learned something when doing this recording. If you break a wall of a Mattock, leave the screen and come back, the wall is mysteriously repaired, so don't break that wall until later. I know by the time you're watching this part, if you're playing this, using this to play along, it's a bit too late, but oh well. Also, I always forget that this room is actually a room where you have to use ice, so now you're going to get to see the proper use of ice. Because you need to put a snowman onto that. Just be careful that Lester's bow and arrow doesn't kill the enemy, because it can still do that. But yeah, that's how it works. You can control the icicle, it's nothing too bad. There's actually kind of different variations of the way that spells work, because fire just goes towards a certain enemy. Ice you can control, a certain spell later on just goes in a straight line. At least got some variation going on there. And we found the Were-Axe. I'm not sure if that's just a pure upgrade, or if it actually has a secondary effect. It might, I don't know, honestly. But I do know for a fact that it is a strength upgrade, and we're going to be using it on the upcoming boss. You know, I love Game Boy music and all, but songs like this can actually really easily grate on my ears, especially when they're short and repetitive like this. It kind of reminds me of, oh shit, what was the game? Castlevania Adventure, that was it. Some of the soundtrack in there, while it's a kick-ass soundtrack all the same, some of those songs really started to hurt my ears after a while. Then again, Castlevania Adventure had a lot of problems like that. Like extremely slow walking speed, and the fact that if you get hit once, your whip goes down, I think, back to the minimum level of power. Yeah, if I ever do an LP of that game, I'm doing that weird patched version that someone did where that doesn't happen. Anyway, we're coming up to the boss, get Cure equipped, get the Were-Axe equipped. It's not that hard, though, so yeah. Also, I should mention, the Blizzard stuff casts the spell, but what the crystals do is that it actually fills your willpower gauge. Oh, and also, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we grinded to level 37 before coming here. Ha, you can never defeat me. And I love this boss theme so much. Anyway, Davias as a boss is oddly more of a Cthulhu or Mind Flayer from Final Fantasy I. He just has stuff circling around him and shoots projectiles at you. There's two strategies you can take this guy. Just hug the bottom wall and throw the charged Were-Axe at him. Or what I'm about to start doing, and it's honestly the better strategy in my opinion if you have enough HP, just get up close and personal and slice him in the face, really. Because he dies pretty quickly, as you see here. There he goes. Booyah. We did it! The pendant is no longer here, my dear. Garuda is flying over Mount Rocks to Glaive. And then he died. Going? Yeah, but the poison gas. My harp tunes will clear the gas, Alan. I love this song so much, by the way. This is the new theme for Jad, I believe. I'll stay here and play Requiem for my sister. I think you mean a Requiem, but yet again, character limits. Okay, Lester. I'm going. Take care. Take this book with you. It might help. And he gives us Mute. Mute is another screen nuking ability that allows you to not get hit with status conditions from enemies. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 6, we'll be heading towards where the poison gas is now being cleared out of. Also, I'll be grinding to level 40 off screen because, well, why not? I've already this high leveled, might as well continue doing it, right? See you guys then.